welcome to another episode of About the Authors TV. I'm your host, Jake Brown. Little Women Goes Goth, the New York Times declared upon reading Beth is Dead, the debut novel by Katie Bernet, which People magazine pitched as a modern reimagining of Little Women as a YA mystery thriller that contains a sad girl detective in Jo Marsh, a love interest with secrets, Lori perhaps, a problematic adult and more. The Cosmopolitan rave was to die for as they announced that Sunny Reads is finally here. The long-awaited book club from Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine and their new youth-focused branch, Sunny, is officially launched after their big announcement at Sunnyfest late last year. With so many incredible books out there, we don't doubt the first choice was a hard one. But dare we say, their first pick is a bloody good time. Cosmopolitan can officially reveal that Sunny Reed's first pick is none other than Beth is Dead by Katie Bernet. She joins us today to talk about it all. Katie, welcome to the show. So years before you reimagined Louise Alcott's classic Little Women, could we have found you discovering story through her books as a child? And who were any other authors or other creative mediums that first helped shape your love of storytelling?
I was a dancer growing up. That was my main form of expression. And I was really serious about that. I wanted to be a dance choreographer. And so I think my first intro into storytelling was choreographing dance and then also like filming music videos. I had a really great time doing that when I was a kid. I would pull like my sisters and my friends all together and we would just make the silliest music videos that I would never want to see today. But we had the best time doing that.
Growing up being a creative, were your dreams more in line with being a video director or dancer versus, say, a novelist?
Yeah, definitely. My goal was to be a choreographer for my whole entire childhood, and I went to NYU as a dance major my freshman year of college. So I was pretty serious about it, but I had a back injury, and that kind of forced me to pivot and choose a new path for my life. And I actually started studying advertising. I worked in advertising as a copywriter and creative director for about 10, 11 years. But during that career, I was writing novels on the side, and I really wanted to make that my full-time career. So that was the goal for a long time, and finally got there.
So we met a famous version of the Marsh family before, but it's fair to say in a far different light than the one we do here in present day. And what USA Today has celebrated is a bold contemporary reimagining of the beloved classic Little Women, when Beth March is found dead in the woods on New Year's Day. Her sisters, Jo, an aspiring author with a huge following on social media, Amy, who dreams of studying art in Europe, and Meg, vow to uncover a murderer. Please introduce us more formally to her sisters, and the potential suspects they and readers initially consider as potentially guilty, including the neighbor who has feelings for not one but two of the girls, Meg's manipulative best friend, Amy's flirtatious mentor, and Beth's lion-hearted first love, as it's hard to know for sure if the crime was committed by someone close to home. After all, the March sisters were dragged into the spotlight months ago after their father published a controversial bestseller about his own daughters, as Beth could have been killed by anyone, and her perspectives told through flashbacks that unfold next to Meg, Jo, and Amy's increasingly fraught investigation, as the tragedy threatens to rip the Marches apart.
Beth March is, of course, a character from Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. In Little Women, she contracts scarlet fever, and that is ultimately what kills her at the end of the story. It is heartbreaking. Everyone remembers Beth March's death. Even people who haven't read the story or seen the movies know that Beth is going to die. And so she is and was the inspiration for Beth is Dead. In my book, she is found dead in chapter 1. So it is a murder mystery. I've twisted Little Women and retold it as a murder mystery. So her sisters have to uncover her killer. Beth's sisters are also characters from Little Women. We have Jo, Meg, and Amy. And I think most people know and love them. They live in the 1800s in Little Women, but in my story, they live in modern day. And they're all semi-famous because their dad has written a novel called Little Women, and it's a bestseller, but he's also been canceled for it because he wrote this expose about their lives without getting their permission. So that's kind of interesting for them to deal with in the story. Just how do they feel about what their dad has done and who they are in his novel. I knew from the very beginning of, the spark of the idea for this project that I wanted Beth to be found dead in chapter 1. I wanted that to be the catalyst for the story. So chapter 1 is written from Jo's perspective. We do get the perspectives of all 4 of the March sisters, including Beth in flashback. chapters in this book, but chapter one is from Joe's perspective, and she wakes up to discover that Beth is not in her bed. She never came home after Sally Gardner's New Year's Eve party. So Joe and Amy have to go looking for her, and they are the ones who discover her body. So I knew from the beginning who the killer would be and what their motive would be. And I sort of built the story around that. And all of the red herrings, all of the wrong answers tie in some way to that main story thread. And funny enough, because I'm really not an analytical person, I crafted the plot for this story in Excel. I needed that because the story has 4 POVs and 2 timelines. There's a lot to manage. And so I had an Excel spreadsheet, and each cell was a scene in the story. And that's just kind of how I kept track of things.
Now, as the sisters stop at nothing to track down the murderer, their investigations, to everyone's horror, leads to the beginning to suspect each other. Entertainment Weekly previews, as each sister has a motive. Jo needs to hook readers via her social media following, and Amy's dreams of studying art in Europe can be potentially stifled by the fact that her aunt's money's been earmarked for Beth. And while Meg isn't capable of murder, her boyfriend is, and she'll do whatever it takes to protect him. While at the same time, layers are added to the inevitable question of who done it by the fact that there's more to the March sisters at play in the mystery, as the pool is widened even further, making just about anybody a potential suspect. Among considering these potential killers, how early on did it occur to you that it could be someone within Beth's own family versus someone, say, on the outside?
Like you were saying, Beth is kind of an observer. So she does have knowledge of sort of everybody's secrets. And I think that's her superpower in a way, is that she's able to be a fly on the wall and really absorb things that other people don't have the power to absorb. So that's a cool thing about Beth. And yes, I did kind of craft each of the sisters with their secret in mind. And really, I wanted their secret or their potential motive to honor the original story of Little Women. So like Amy is a really great example. Amy needs money because she wants to go and study art in Europe, as she does in Little Women. But the money that she needs and that is possibly accessible to her has always been meant for Beth. So that's really her, potential motive in the story would she choose this money over her sister? And romance is definitely a part of the story. We have some familiar romance. We have Laurie, obviously, and got to keep him as a part of the story. And we have John Brooke, who is Meg's boyfriend in the story, and he is a suspect. I mean, Meg may or may not be protecting John Brooke. That's kind of one of the questions that the story is asking. So the romances are they have layers of sweetness to them like they do in the original story, but there's also a dark side to each of the romance threads. So, I mean, you have to have that in a murder mystery. I think you have to explore the darkness behind the facade of each of the relationships. I had fun with all the characters, but I really loved pulling characters that you know from the original story and finding a way to twist them to be a part of this murder mystery. So 2 examples, and I won't say, whether or not they're involved in the murder, but Sally Gardner, I really think was a fun example. She is horrendous in the original, and I kept that aspect of her. Like, she's really just unlikable, and she has a potential motive. And then I created kind of a newer character also. Beth has a boyfriend in the story, Henry Hummel. He does exist in the original novel, but he's a part of the Hummel family. He's not like a main character at all in Little Women. And so, he has a potential motive as well, and he's a part of the mystery as well. Really all the side characters are. Fred Vaughn is another one. He's kind of a predatory art teacher in Beth is Dead, and I had a lot of fun. Well, fun is probably the wrong word, but it was interesting to craft his character.
In choosing to tell this story against a contemporary setting, Parade magazine importantly notes that the girls have to navigate modern-day concerns like cancel culture and social media obsession. It must have been similarly liberating in how that update in time freed you from the art when and they-thou era of the original story was published and to reflect, to say, hipper dialogue from present day.
That was probably the most fun part about writing Beth is Dead, is that I got to take these characters that everybody knows and loves so well and modernize them. So, Amy's cursing in the story, and Meg is in college. Meg's going to Harvard, and she's talking about the struggles of being a college student and wanting to graduate and become a doctor and make a better life for herself. And Jo is an influencer, so she's dealing with technology and how many followers she has and all this. And so it was really fun to place them in modern day and just let them be Gen Z teenagers. It's a lot of fun to have, Jo March talking about her Instagram channel and things like that. Um, and I mean, just to, like I said, Amy's cursing, she would, I was just, I had to keep asking myself, what really would this character do if she lived today? And I think that's the fun of it, is these characters are so flexible. They still are the people that they are in Little Women. They're just showing up in a different time and acting in a different way because of that context.
CriminalElement.com noted that as the sisters are thrust into global notoriety after their acclaimed father, Rob, decides to only lightly fictionalize the story of their lives in his latest best-selling novel, Little Women. In his book, he not only painted each girl as an exaggeration of herself, but also chose to end the story with his third daughter, the kind and sensitive pianist Beth, of dying in a car crash. And his family have understandably mixed emotions regarding the book. Now, was their father, Rob March, an easy target to cancel after doing what he did to them and putting them out there in this book?
It wasn't actually my first idea for the dad storyline, which is kind of an interesting, story to tell, peek behind the curtain. But I knew I wanted him to be a big part of the story because in the original, he kind of kicks off the narrative. Like, they get this letter from their father who's away at war. He's a chaplain, and he, in this letter, in a way, sort of says, live up to my expectations. I mean, that's the way I interpret it, is he's like, hey, do well while I'm gone, live up to my expectations. And so I knew I wanted him to be a part of the story, and I knew I wanted the girls to have this push and pull with him and his expectations and trying to be the people that he wants them to be. But my first idea for him was something else entirely that took him away from the family. I only got about 6 chapters in with that, and then I realized, oh my gosh, hold on a second. If he writes the story of Little Women, it gives me the opportunity to let these girls read about themselves and read from their dad's perspective. This is how he sees them. This is how he writes about their lives. And so then it gives them a chance to say, is that really who I am? Is that really who I want to be? So that sort of cracked the whole story open for me. And that is what the book is about. Is really, I mean, it is a murder mystery first and foremost, but it's also about these girls discovering themselves and deciding who they really want to be.
Clever portal for them to do so through. Returning to the murder mystery that competes for the reader's attention throughout, where Kirkus importantly reminds us everyone's a suspect until they aren't in this twist-filled tale, arguing you did a masterful job at preserving the distinct personalities and ambitions of the classic characters, transporting them to a contemporary setting and making them fresh and relevant for today's readers, even as the book thoroughly explores the characters' possible motives, from jealousy to the quest for fame. We love if you talk about each of the sisters as potential suspects through the point of view of law enforcement as their dual investigations proceed.
I knew I wanted the main detective to sort of have preconceived notions about this family already. And so they are fighting an uphill battle. The detective is absolutely looking at them first. And I think that that's just a huge part of the mystery, is that they are under a microscope from the minute they find her body. When I had that idea for the dad's book, I was weighing, okay, how big do I make this? Is he, critically acclaimed literary author? Only, his biggest fans know about this story. Or does this book really blow up? And I decided I think it would be really cool if this book actually blows up and people know the March sisters. And when Beth is found dead, it's not like, oh, a girl from Concord, Massachusetts is found dead. It's no, Beth March is found dead. Everybody knows who she is, and everybody is curious to know what happened.
Now, as you were winding down the question of who done it, preparing to reveal it to the reader, how much fear did you harbor, if any, over how it would be received by fans of the original classic Little Women?
That was my biggest fear writing this concept, was that I would have angry mobs of Little Women fans coming after me saying that they hated the story and that I'd ruined it, So that was in the back of my mind the whole time. But I think the thing that allowed me to take some risks with the story was my love, my genuine love for Little Women. And I think that does come through in the end, thank goodness, is like that's what people are seeing the most. I've seen a lot of comments from people on Goodreads and things like that where they're saying this is a love letter to Little Women. And it really is. As much as I've twisted the story and ruined the characters in certain ways, I still am trying to communicate the heart of what Little Women was trying to communicate, which is really about sisterhood and standing up for each other. So, yeah, at the end of the day, I think I'm honoring the original story, and that's what I always intended to do.
Did you feel you'd spent enough time with each of these ladies on the page by the end of the story to leave it there, or could you envision a sequel, say, when they're 20 years older from now?
Never say never. I definitely have some thoughts in the back of my head about where I could take it. I think, Little Women was originally written in two parts, and so it could be kind of cool to think of it that way and do a second part. But for now, I'm really happy with where I left it, and the book does stand on its own.
In that spirit, are you envisioning a reimagining of another older classic to update?
I'm doing another retelling of a literary classic and turning it into a mystery thriller. And this time it's going to be The Secret Garden. So I'm very excited about that. It was just one of my favorites growing up. My mom and I watched the movie a lot together. And I actually think it was her idea in the beginning. After I wrote Beth is Dead, I think it was her idea. She said, why not Secret Garden? Like it came from her and it just sounded so perfect to me. And The Secret Garden is really ripe to turn into a mystery thriller because of the setting and just everything about it. It's really nice for a mystery thriller.
Being selected by Reese Witherspoon's Sunny Reed YA book club must have been an absolute delight. How much has that helped you as a first-time author getting this book out there before readers?
It's been really cool. Beth is Dead was the first selection for her new young adult book club, which is called Sunny Reads. And I'm hugely appreciative because I feel like she definitely for her first book for this new book club could have selected a really well-established author and maybe that would have gotten more attention or whatever, but she took a chance on a debut. And I think that's really special. So yeah, the Reese effect I think it's been a huge help for the book and getting it in the hands of readers. Really meeting readers has been so special, like just having events. I got to go on a little tour when the book launched and just meeting people who had already read the book or who were picking it up and excited to read it has been so cool. One moment that also kind of stands out to me, there was an article written by a Louisa May Alcott scholar, and she felt like Louisa would have liked the book. She would have liked Beth is Dead. And that was really cool to me. I was like, oh man, somebody who's studied her life and really knows her really well thinks that she would have liked it. And that felt really great. So it's been a lot of fun.
Finally, what advice do you have for the first-time author who, say in the midst of writing the manuscript they hope will become their first published by the time it's done, and how you got there successfully yourself, including notably onto the New York Times list, your first book out?
Definitely keep going, even when it gets hard. Beth is Dead is my first published novel, but it was my sixth manuscript. It took me 10 years to get published. So even when you feel like you've kind of reached the end of the road, if it really is something that you want to do and it really is a dream for you, there is a way to keep going. And you just have to find that next story, find that next idea, and keep moving forward.
Katie, congratulations on the book's success, and thanks so much for spending time with us today on About the Authors TV.
So much. Bye.